Welcome to Wayward Writers. I'm senior literary agent and author Heather Cashman.
I'm author and writing coach Stephanie Bearce.
And I'm author and writing coach Nicki Jacobsmeyer.
Our mission is to nurture and enrich established writers throughout their publishing journeys.
We welcome all genres, age groups, and publishing paths through video podcasts, online webinars, in-person retreats, and more.
We're here to help you conquer your path.
Welcome to this episode of Wayward Writers. We're excited today to talk with you about how to survive a writing conference as an introvert. And we are experts at this.
Yes, we are.
Because we've done it and continue to do it. And Nicki is our support system because she's an extrovert. And we support her in the ways that are difficult for extroverts. Let's talk about what it means to be an introvert and an extrovert. Stephanie, you want to tell us what an introvert is?
The way I've always understood the difference you can tell between an introvert and extrovert is that they both may enjoy being around people, but for an introvert, it's not what fills them. So it will zap your energy if you are an introvert, and it takes a lot of effort. Whereas the opposite is true. If you are an extrovert, being around people actually fills you with energy, and you don't have to go home and hide in your bedroom and go to sleep immediately.
True, Nicki, do you feel that?
Yes. I mean, I feel energized with other people. I mean, like, during COVID, I think everyone, whether you were an introvert or extrovert, missed people.
Absolutely.
But we all know writing can be very lonely. And there's times where I need to talk to someone, whether it's the postman or the trash man or whatever. So yes, I think that's true. Something else that I think is interesting, I saw a definition too about like spontaneity. And I don't know if you guys agree with this, but extroverts are okay, like joining a group and we're just going to chat. Like, I don't know you, but let's chat. And someone asks you a question and you can respond or whatever. And introverts, they want to be prepared for the conversation maybe, or who they're talking to or what. Do you guys agree with that?
I do. I love to be spontaneous when I'm deciding to do an activity.
Mm-hmm.
But the person I'm doing that activity with has to be like somebody that I know pretty well, or I don't want to do it. Like if I have to do something spontaneous with somebody that I don't know, or even don't know that well, I don't like doing that. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's all right.
I also think introverts are interesting in that maybe we're just slower than extroverts, because one thing that I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's, I've just noticed even just on this podcast that it takes me time to think about what I'm going to say, and it takes me time to process things. And I feel like that's not true for the people who have been extroverts on our podcast. They seem to have great answers or just think very spontaneously too. So I don't know. But I like to have time alone.
I do too.
I do too.
Maybe, so what makes an introvert different than an extrovert if we all like to have time alone?
I think maybe it might be the amount of time and how frequently time alone needs to be. Like, for instance, if I'm at a conference, I can go all day if I need to and not take a break for me, except when I'm using the restroom or something. I think for an introvert, like, you will see them fleeing for the doors. They will have this deer in the headlight look, usually, like, do not pass go, do not ask me anything, like, I need a hot second. And that's exactly what you should do, is take the hot second. Like, we all should, no matter what we are. But that's why we're here to talk about this. This is one of our requests we got from our community, which we love because we love to talk about those things. And so you're an extrovert, or you're an introvert, a proud introvert. It's time to go to a conference. What do you do? How do you set yourself up? What was your all's first experiences like when you went to your first conference or retreat?
Stephanie, what was your first conference like?
Well, my writing conferences came later in my life. I think I had to learn how to deal with I was a teacher and so I think I really had to learn how to deal with conferences through education conferences, which are different things. And through those, I developed some techniques to help myself through, like taking a break or actually scripting something for myself to say to strangers so that I would be prepared, like you were saying. It's nice.
You had to pull a Mr. Collins.
Yeah, kind of. So those are some of the techniques. So I think by the time I actually came to a writer's conference, I had been through a lot of conferences. I also didn't believe that I could go to a writer's conference until I had a published book. So that made it easier. And you should not do what I do. You did. You should go as soon as possible to writers' conferences and things and network and learn all the good stuff that I didn't. So how about you, Heather? How was your first conference?
I remember spending the majority of my first writing conference very much alone in the very back upper corner of every room I could possibly get into, and feeling overwhelmed all the time by everything. It's just so many people. I mean, I think there was like 400 people at the conference, and I did not know a single person. I don't know what possessed me to go there without any friends, but I just was so eager to learn. And in reality, I accomplished that. So it was a good experience for me because I did sit there and soak up everything from the teachers, the faculty, even inspiration from the keynote speaker. Like, those were all really good things for me to learn, and also just learn the lingo of publishing. I think that was something that was interesting for me to learn for the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, Nicki? What was your first one like?
My first writing conference, I went in my new critique group. There were several members going there. So that helped me with my nerves as far as really not knowing what was going on. I kind of threw myself into the fire, like, oh, I know nothing. Let's go show that I know nothing. You know what I mean? But like, my critique group was there, including Stephanie. So that was really, really helpful. And I still enjoy going with a friend. I think you get something out of it too. You're going to meet tons of people. So I think that's one thing that is beneficial whether you're an introvert or extrovert, but especially if you're an introvert, if you can meet someone there that maybe you're a friend online or whatever, or someone that lives with you, it helps to have that person. It's kind of like an anchor. It's also good to make sure you branch out. Like, even if you're like, okay, we're together going to go meet new people, but not just
right.
Because that's part of a retreat or conference too, right? Is the networking part, which we'll get into. So, okay, before you attend, you've signed up. How do you emotionally and mentally prepare yourself for a successful event as an introvert?
I think for me, the first thing I have to do is know the schedule and know what's coming, know the different classes. I like to choose the classes that I want before I ever go there. I like to know the venue. Like, I look at maps of things. I don't like surprises when I'm in a strange place, which is kind of weird because I live in an RV and go to strange places all the time, and I am surprised. But I'm not with other people when I'm doing that. So it's a completely different thing. And I can't explain that. I have no idea why I work that way, and it doesn't even make sense to me. But I know it's true that if I'm having to gear myself up to face all of the socializing, then I cannot be stressed about the other stuff. So I feel like taking as much stress out of all of the other components as possible really helps me to prepare.
I think those are good tips. I do like the schedule and everything ahead of time too. As I said before, I started giving myself a script. Not that it's all scripted, but giving myself like 2 or 3 different questions that I would ask. What's your work in progress? What do you like to write? Those kind of things. So that I'd have some sort of talking point. If I find that if I ask somebody else, I love to listen. I just don't have to talk then. So that's my strategy, is to let the other people do the talking and I'll listen and I'll get to know you. And I enjoy that part. But I think part of it just is prepping ahead of time mentally and knowing that, yeah, if it's a conference, there's going to be a lot of people there usually. And more often than not, lots of people that I don't know. And just preparing ahead of time mentally, saying it's all going to be okay. It's one day or a day and a half, and you can do this for that long. And then I do, like Heather said, pick out the classes, but I also try and pick out if there's a class that's going to be an area that, if like I need a break, it's like which one strategically would be the best place for me to take a break if I need it. I may not need it, but if I do, I have it picked out ahead of time so that I'm not kicking myself for missing something that I wanted to go to just because I got really tired and needed to find a corner for a while.
So and that's smart too, because I think that missing, I don't know, tell me what you guys think about this, but I think it's more important to go to things like lunches and dinners where you're sitting at a table and networking rather than going to a class. Like if you're going to skip something, don't skip the networking part.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I don't like missing classes. Sometimes I have FOMO. So if I have a friend or even someone I've just met that I use the question that Stephanie recommended, what's your work in progress or something like that, I might say to them, hey, would you mind sharing your notes for next class and I can share one of yours for mine? And then you can unplug, you'll get notes. But whether you're pre-published, newly published, have 100 books published, in my opinion, I agree with you, Heather, the networking social aspects is where you're going to get the most connections. You're going to build relationships. That's where the magic happens. Our retreats that we've had, other conferences, when I look back at places I made a connection that has helped me somehow either get published or something like that, it's not in a planned scenario. It is the spontaneity of the connection you make with another human. And I know that can be really terrifying.
It can be. The one comforting thing I would have to say is when you're at a writer's conference, you are around a whole bunch of introverts. As uncomfortable as I feel, that person next to me probably feels just as uncomfortable. And if you can get to the point that you're thinking about the other person, it's like, okay, what can I do to make them feel comfortable and take the focus off yourself? For me, that helps. It's like, oh, this person looks like they need someone to talk to. I can go over and sit down and make a new friend that way. And that is a part of the networking. And it's just, I don't know. I think you're right, Nicki. It's right where the magic happens, is with the other people that you meet and connect with. So don't miss out on that unless you've lost your mind and you have to. And that does happen sometimes.
For sure. Even if you go, like, if you're like, oh my goodness, this thing's 2 hours or whatever, I'm going to go for 15 or 20 minutes and then I can leave. Sometimes allowing yourself the permission for an out makes either you feel more comfortable and you take the out, or you decide, you know what, I'm having a good time. I don't want the out.
Yeah.
I highly recommend having a business card or something. You don't have to get fancy, even if you print them yourself, but you're going to be exchanging information with people. And what I like to do, because sometimes my overwhelming situation is all the information I'm getting or learning, is it going to leave my small brain too quickly? And so, like, after I meet someone, I might write on their card or on a networking notebook I have who they are, like, what did we connect with? Or any ideas or whatever, because then I can let it leave my brain so I don't feel overwhelmed. And I do that in classes too. If you're like, oh, this made me think of this idea or something, make that to-do list in the moment. Because once you leave the conference or retreat, unfortunately, right, you're back in real world with people that don't understand your passion for writing. And sometimes you're like, well, wait a minute, I need a second. And sometimes we don't get a day or something after. So I think that helps digest information also, I've found.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, writing everything down. You won't remember.
No, you
There's
just
just
won't.
too much information.
Even the greatest opportunity, you're not going to remember the spelling of the last name, or and that's okay.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your go-to self-care strategies during a conference? Heather, what are some things you do? Because I've heard some of your examples and they sound quite lovely, and I'm adding them to my list.
I'm very much a routine-oriented person. I have like morning rituals, I have evening rituals, and they really help me to find balance in my life, keep my brain centered, have peace. And when I'm at a conference, I always make sure and try and do my rituals. Like I get up early enough that I can do my morning rituals. And sometimes it's a shortened version, but it still at least gives me that like feeling of I haven't spent the night in my bed, but you know what? I'm still going to be able to do my rituals, and I'm going to be able to do my yoga, and I'm going to be able to have my favorite tea because I've brought it with me, and I'm going to be able to like meditate and pray. And then at night, like I always think about being grateful and what did I learn today, and I take my notes for the day and I put them into my mind mapping software, and I do these kind of things because they help me stay centered. And also I do feel like my brain gets too full, especially at a conference, and so I take all the things that I learned and I put them into my mind mapping software, and that really helps me like not feel like I'm going to lose things.
Yeah.
Because I lose paper. I'm not good at paper. Those are some things I do. And I also, during the day, I talk myself through things. Like, oftentimes by dinner time, I'm done. I'm so exhausted, or I'm like, I'm not sure I can talk to another person or whatever. And I just think to myself, I'm going to go and I'm going to get in my favorite pajamas. And even if I can't get into my own bed, like, I'm still going to have those, and I'm going to be able to listen to my favorite music and be able to just have the things that I want. I guess I'm basically like a kindergartner self-soothing myself, but at the same time,
though,
it does. You know yourself.
That. I think it's wonderful.
Sure. It is what I need to be able to go back again the next day and do it again. And I think that's the key for a conference. Like for me, after one day, it's so much. And I mean, I think I'm really a true introvert. So I really struggle to go back again for more. And oftentimes, I go to conferences that are 3 or 4 days long. And if I don't do these things at night and get myself together and all of that, then yeah, I can have a really hard time the next day just keeping going.
What about you, Stephanie?
Oh, I'm not nearly as organized as Heather, which I may need to improve my organizational skills to get through things. Quite honestly, this is really important to me, is to have, if I'm having to room with somebody, it needs to be somebody who understands that I shut down. So I will, if I have to, because it's cost saving measures.
Sure.
We're all saving money. So it's really important that I have somebody that understands that when I go back to my room, I may actually just not talk to you, and I am not mad at you. I'm not upset. It's just I've used all my words and I've used all my energy. And I need to read my book for a while, drink a cup of tea, and go to sleep, or sip a glass of wine if it's been really bad. But
for sure.
That's one thing that I have to be able to unplug, and without anybody questioning it. And so my unplugging may be just crashed on the bed, not talking to anyone. It's not as lovely as Heather's note taking and everything.
How about you, Nicki? Even as an extrovert, you must have things that you like need to do when you go to these things.
Yeah, it depends if you're an attendee or if you're part of the faculty or you're an organizer or host, right? They all are different things. But I have a certain blanket that I love cuddling up with. And if I'm driving or I can fit it in my suitcase, it comes with me. Like I just throw it on the bed and it's from home and it's my wrap up. I'm very much Like I try when the sun goes down to, if I can, do what I need to that day. Did I reach my goal for the day? And so I try to be very goal oriented. So like when I'm going to a conference or a retreat, I usually do no more than 3 goals, one that's business related, one craft related, and like one relationship related, like whatever it is, and so I evaluate, okay, did I do that? And sometimes that lets me off the hook to feel less pressured, I guess. But if there's a thank you note I want to write or something like that, I try to do it before I give myself shut down, no more words, no more talking time. But I try, like when I get back to my room, to do those things first, because when you hit the wall, you hit the wall, right? Everyone has to recharge. But I think communicating with people, whether you're rooming with them, or helps a lot. Like, hey, it's nothing personal, but after this time, I'm walking out of the room, and it's not that your story's not great, but I'm done. I'm done. And so I think we all have that, and we're all human, and we all know that. So what do you guys have? Is there a certain thing that you feel or your brain tells you when, like, where's the closest exit?
Oh yeah, where's the closest? I need to leave, or bad things will come out of my mouth, and
yeah,
you just get so tired. My brain will just be like done. I don't even know how to describe it. I just know I'm done, and I need to take a few minutes, and sometimes it can just be a few minutes, and that's what I advise people who are going. It's okay to walk outside and take a couple of deep breaths and be alone. People at writers' conferences will absolutely be like, they may be even like, are you okay? Because it's not unusual. And so don't be afraid. Communicating it with somebody else, say, hey, I just needed a minute, and people are going to understand. And like you said, Nicki, I think communication with others around you is critical. I'm not upset. I just need to breathe for a minute. I'll be back. What about you, Heather?
I guess I start just feeling like I want to hide. When I was a very little kid, I used to hide underneath the bathroom sink. That was my alone time. And so whenever I start feeling the need to like just hide, I guess is the right word.
Yeah.
I just find some place that I can go. Sometimes it's like an empty classroom in a conference center, or sometimes it's outside. I much prefer going outside just because I'm always outside a lot. But I feel like, especially being faculty and having a lot of people come and ask you questions, which is wonderful. And I'm so glad that people do and feel like they can approach me. I hope I do feel approachable. After a while of that, I do need to go and take some time for myself and just take 15 minutes and calm down. And if I don't get that, I just start getting really like edgy, feeling a little bit panicky. But for the most part, people are very respectful and people are very kind. But sometimes you do have to go somewhere where people won't find you. And I try and do that, go and spend the time during lunch that I need to spend with people, and then maybe go back to my room for the last 15 minutes. Or it's really good when conferences, in my opinion, build in small amounts of time between classes, or maybe sometimes have 2 classes together and then a 30-minute break in the classes or something like that. Because I do feel like I really need that time sometimes. What do you do, Nicki? Or do you want that as an extrovert? Do you want that time?
Sometimes I do, especially if I'm faculty or if I'm hosting. But usually when you're hosting, there is no time for that. So usually I just paste a smile on my face. Keep going. No, I think that's great. Honestly, when you go to a venue of whatever sort, go a little early and scope out the place if the map isn't available or whatever, and find a place that you could escape to, and bring headphones with wires. So when you sit there, you just put those on, and that is a very polite way of saying, don't talk to me. Now, you will have an extrovert come up to you and not obey that rule, I'm sure. But sometimes it's hard, or leave a couple minutes early from an event. Like sometimes if I'm hosting an event or organizing it, sometimes I will leave when everyone's in the classroom or whatever, just a second, just for a minute. And that's fine. You're not going to understand really or comprehend what's going on. You're not missing anything, except you're just getting frustrated. So I think that's really a good idea. Introverts, you're talking about these challenges. Is it worth it? If I'm an introvert, should I go to a conference ever? Should I just stay home in my robe? Should I put pants on? Talk to me. What do I do?
Oh, you got to go. That's why we're doing this. You need to show up.
Yeah.
Pants on.
And the thing is, it's not going to get any better, because if you do get published, then you have got to go out and promote your book, and you've got to be getting out in front of people. And so if you haven't gone in a totally innocuous setting and learned strategies for yourself, or learned these things about yourself and what you do need, how are you going to plan those events that you have to be doing to promote your book?
Excellent point, Heather. Excellent point. It is, like we've talked about, it's about gaining knowledge. It is always worth it to pull out your pretend extrovert and go to a conference or a retreat, because it's building community, it's gaining knowledge. And yes, there are lots of great classes online right now. And as an introvert, I take full advantage of those. I lurk and never even have my video on. You'll never know I'm there unless you see my name. Going in person, sitting and talking to the people, meeting staff in person. If you're looking for an agent and you want to see what that person is actually like, show up at a conference with a publisher, an editor that you might want to work with. So it is absolutely worth taking the time, getting yourself geared up to do it, figure out your strategies and get yourself there. Because if you really want to be successful in publishing, and this is whether you are going to be indie published or you're going to be traditionally published, you have to network with people. And that's the best and most critical part of any conference or retreat that you go to.
I don't know about you guys, but I have noticed that there are different formats for conferences that really do help me, that I do wish I had known earlier. So are there any styles, formats, or things that you guys wish that you had known earlier about navigating these conferences or picking a conference to go to? What do you think?
Well, I guess it depends on what my goal is. If I'm in a place where I'm wanting to network, then I want to go to an event that has social opportunities where there's going to be faculty and writers there, whether it's a mealtime or a happy hour or something like that. Like, I will skip learning if I need to be ready for that, if that is my goal of wherever I am in my path. If I'm wanting to learn, sometimes a webinar works better. Like, want a specific, a niche topic on whatever, and there's this webinar. That's great. I can still make connections, talking in the chat, right, reaching back out and emailing and thanking the person that talked there. There's still things you can do. But if I'm wanting to connect with people or with myself or my manuscript, then I want to retreat, because I want downtime to be able to do both. And at a larger conference, it's the biggest bang for your buck as far as how much content can we put in so people don't fall down on their face. You know what I mean? So that's kind of it for me. It depends where I am and what I'm looking for. How about you, Stephanie?
I like retreat format too, but I agree. I think it is what you're looking for at that point in time. And there are different points in time where I want a webinar. I want something that's going to give me the information. I do like conferences though, because even though there's a lot of people there, it's the opportunity to meet more people and usually have more staff that you can meet. So more the publishing industry. There's a distinct advantage to that too. But just if my own personal thing is I love hanging out at a retreat and really getting to know some people. Heather, I was wondering, you said some different formats. What are some of the different formats that you've seen that you think work well for introverts especially?
I have seen formats like where you'll go to a big conference and there's maybe a ton of people, where in the beginning you'll have everyone together for a keynote or that. And that's fine because you can do anything for half an hour. Then you go and they break you out into these small groups of 6 people, and it's a round table with a single faculty member.
Oh, nice.
And for me, I love that format because I don't feel so overwhelmed by 6 people, especially when each of us is like presenting something, or you're not expected to make small chat, not expected to come up with brilliant things to say on the fly. You don't have to do that in those, right? You're just doing maybe some simple critiques or things like that. Another format that I personally love is this online format that's a mix of, it's a big conference where you might have 100 or 200 people in the Zoom call. But then again, they break you out into these smaller critique groups with a single faculty. And even though it's on Zoom and it's an online thing, you're in a critiquing group where you actually get to know the people in your session. I don't think it's as high energy, like that just creative energy that you especially feel like in a retreat, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's what a retreat gives me, is like this just amazing creative energy that these small groups and small formats give, where you can actually interact with people on a deeper level and really get to know them. And people are inspiring. Like, everybody is inspiring if you get to know them and know their journey. And so I think that there are these certain formats, whereas if you go to a conference, which I love SCBWI, don't get me wrong, but when I was a very brand new writer and those were the first conferences I was going to, every class was huge. There were no small breakouts. There were no small anythings. And even the tables, like we were sitting at lunch with 12 people or some crazy amount of people. And I just was like, you like scoot your chair back and you try and hide yourself from everyone else at the table because you think you have nothing to contribute, which I will tell you is wrong. I tell myself that all the time too, but it doesn't always work. And yeah, those are the formats I really like as someone who struggles to interact with a lot of people at one time.
Yeah, I like those formats. I think anytime you can reduce it down so that you can actually get to know people. Yeah. I like that. And I like
it's that. The individual connection, right? That's what I crave.
Yes, it is. And maybe, I don't know whether that's all introverts or not. I don't need the loud party. I just want that individual connection with a person to know them.
Exactly.
And then I'm good. Then I'm fine.
Yeah. And like, I don't like raves. I like intimate bonfires.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah. And I think if you just think of that format in a conference setting, you'll be fine. Yeah. So have you guys ever had a super rewarding moment at a conference? Like, have you ever had an experience that was just super rewarding or amazing?
I have a situation that, as an extrovert, I like to share, because it seemed like, as an extrovert, I feel like it'd be like, oh, well, yeah, you wouldn't have a problem with that. But I was at an SCBWI New York conference, and it was a time where the Illustrator Galley was open in the gallery, and you got to browse, have a drink, eat, and then there was going to be a keynote. And I happened to be in this area, and it was me and our keynote speaker, James Patterson. And I went back and forth. I was like, oh my gosh, your son read his book. He's not a big reader, but it was funny and he enjoyed it. And I want to go talk, but it's James Patterson. I mean, the dialogue, I was in there for like 15 minutes. Okay. And I'm an extrovert. I love talking to people. And then I remembered, Nicki, if you're not uncomfortable, reward is not going to be great. Go get uncomfortable for just a minute, because if you walk out of this room, you know yourself and you're going to be frustrated that you didn't say anything. I wasn't asking for his autograph. I didn't want to tell him he's my favorite writer. I just wanted to thank him. And I went up and I thanked him for writing something that my son would actually read and enjoy. And he shook my hand. We had a little conversation, and I was like, ha ha, I approached James Patterson. And I thought I was going to throw up the entire time. But I feel like we need to sometimes go right to the edge of where we're comfortable and just take one more step.
Yeah.
And that's
faith.
Is where the magic happens, I think. So that is something that was very memorable for me, just because I was scared out of my mind.
I love that. How about you, Heather?
I think that I don't have any big moments like that. I think that I had, okay, I'll tell you one, and it honestly is one of the reasons that I ask you to do this podcast with me. So I had gone to a couple like conferences and stuff like that and whatever. And then Nicki, you were the RA of SCBWI in Kansas, Missouri. And I was like, they're having this retreat. It's at a convent or some kind of...
Yes, the Abbey.
And I was like, this is weird. But it was super cheap. It was like really inexpensive. And I was like, okay, like I can justify spending this money and I could do it. And I could maybe go and meet writers. And there was only 20 people going, plus the faculty. And I thought, I can handle that. I can do that. And also there was enough scheduled time to actually work on our writing. And I was really having trouble finishing this particular manuscript that I really wanted to finish. So anyway, I signed up for this retreat thinking, what the heck? And I had met you guys like maybe once before at a conference, but it wasn't like a big deal. It was just we're running the conference and I was nobody. And so I went to this retreat and I remember getting there and thinking, now what? And you guys just took me in.
No.
Right?
Good.
You just took me in. You gave me my folder. You showed me my room. You helped me figure it out. And over that weekend, it was like 3 days or something. Over that weekend, I felt like I know people now. For the very first time, I had this sense of belonging. And it just really changed my entire writing career. And I don't know. I think that's really where like my confidence to move forward came from. And that was like the root of it, and we had a really great faculty member. I do not have a clue who it was. And that didn't even matter to me because I was learning, I was doing what I loved, and I finally felt like I had a community.
Yeah, I think that's the whole reason to put yourself out there. Find that community that you may not even know you need, but you do. And it's going to make everything so much better when you find your people. It really is.
And when 3 years ago, I was starting to feel that again as an agent because I had become an agent and I had lost my community again. And I think that's why, like, for me, that's why I reached out, because that's where I originally felt it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to get again. And I have successfully done that.
Yes.
And we hope you all out there feel like you found your community with Wayward Writers. Hopefully this has given everyone a little courage to go out there and find the magic. And keep letting us know what you want to hear about. We're here for you. We're all in this together. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Wayward Writers.
Let's connect. Find us at waywardwriters.com, X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
See you next time. Conquer your path.